learned over the years that the people we fear most don't always look the part. They don't lurk in dark corners. They don't raise their voices. They don't draw attention to themselves. Sometimes they sit quietly in church. They bring food to the sick. They earn trust one small kindness at a time. And that's what makes this case so hard to forget. To the people around her, Velma Barfield seemed ordinary. She was polite, soft-spoken, a woman who spoke openly about faith and responsibility. Someone who worked as a caregiver, helping the elderly and the unwell with the kind of patience people admired. She didn't look dangerous, and for years that's exactly why no one suspected her. Velma Barfield didn't rely on sudden violence. There were no arguments that spilled into the open, no scenes that brought police running. Her method was quiet. She used arsenic-based rat poison, mixed into food or drinks. The symptoms didn't come all at once. They crept in slowly. Stomach pain, nausea, weakness, confusion, the kind of illness doctors see every day. By the time anything felt truly wrong, it was already too late. One of her earliest victims was her own mother, Lillian Bullard. It was Christmas of 1974. Velma had taken out a loan in her mother's name without permission. She'd forged paperwork to get the money she needed to support a growing addiction to prescription drugs. When she feared the truth would come out, she made a decision that would leave no one to confront her. She poisoned her mother. Lillian became sick and died, believing she was suffering from natural illness. No autopsy raised alarms. No one asked questions. Velma mourned publicly, and privately, she moved on. As the years passed, Velma found work caring for elderly people. It was the perfect cover. Caregiving offered privacy, access, and trust. Montgomery and Dolly Edwards were an older couple. She was hired to help in 1977. Not long after Velma began working for them, both became ill. Doctors diagnosed gastritis. Dolly died first. Montgomery followed. Years later, Velma would admit she poisoned Dolly. At the time, no one suspected murder. Another man, John Henry Lee, hired Velma as a caregiver that same year. Soon after she started working for him, he complained of severe stomach pain. He was hospitalized. Then he died. Again, it was ruled natural causes. Again, Velma walked away. Looking back, it's easy to ask how no one noticed the pattern. But patterns are difficult to see when they move slowly, especially when the person at the center appears helpful, faithful, and concerned. Velma didn't look like a threat. She looked like someone who needed help herself. Her motive wasn't anger. It was money. And behind the money was addiction. Velma had developed a serious dependence on prescription drugs, particularly tranquilizers. To maintain that habit, she forged checks, took out loans, and stole from the people closest to her. Each lie created pressure. Each forgery tightened the knot. And when she felt cornered, someone got sick. The case finally began to unravel with the death of Stuart Taylor. Stuart was Velma's fiancé. In 1978, Velma had been forging checks in his name to buy drugs. When she feared he was about to discover the fraud, she chose the same solution she had before. She poisoned him. This time, something was different. There was an autopsy, and the poison didn't stay hidden. Stuart Taylor had lethal levels of arsenic in his body. For the first time, Velma Barfield couldn't explain her way out. Her arrest in May of 1978 didn't come from a routine investigation. It came from family. Velma's own sister made an anonymous call to police, saying she believed Stuart's death wasn't an accident. That call changed everything. When confronted with the autopsy results, Velma didn't deny poisoning Stuart. She claimed she never meant to kill anyone. She said her intention was to make them sick, then nurse them back to health. She believed that would buy her time to repay the money she had stolen. But arsenic doesn't make exceptions, and poison doesn't respond to good intentions. As investigators began reviewing past deaths connected to Velma, the picture became clearer. Her mother, the elderly couples, the men she cared for. Deaths once thought unrelated now shared a common thread: trust. Velma was tried for Stuart Taylor's murder. The prosecution was led by Joe Freeman Britt, a district attorney known nationally for pursuing the death penalty more aggressively than almost anyone else. The state painted Velma as methodical, calculating, Someone who understood exactly what arsenic would do and chose victims who were vulnerable. Her defense focused on addiction and mental health. They argued she was impaired, desperate, and not thinking clearly. The jury listened, and then they decided. Velma Barfield was sentenced to death. While on death row, something unexpected happened. Velma became a born-again Christian. She read the Bible daily, led prayer groups, ministered to other inmates. She spoke openly about faith, repentance, and forgiveness. Some believed her transformation was sincere. Others believed it was another performance. Either way, it drew national attention. Her case became a moral debate. Could someone who claimed repentance still deserve execution? Prominent religious figures spoke on her behalf, including Billy Graham and his wife, Ruth. They appealed directly to North Carolina Governor Jim Hunt, asking for clemency. They argued that mercy should matter, that faith should count for something. The governor declined. On November 2, 1984, Velma Barfield was executed by lethal injection. She made history that night. She became the first woman executed in the United States after capital punishment resumed in 1976, and the first woman ever executed by lethal injection. Her final meal was simple: a bag of cheese doodles and a Coca-Cola. Velma Barfield didn't look like what most people imagine when they think of a serial killer. That's what makes her case linger. Her crimes weren't loud. They weren't sudden. They were slow. They relied on trust. They hid behind care. They unfolded in kitchens, not alleyways. This case also forces uncomfortable questions, the kind we don't like to sit with, because they don't stay neatly inside one story. How many warning signs do we miss because they don't fit the picture we expect? Because we're taught what danger is supposed to look like. We imagine it as loud, obvious, easy to recognize. And when it doesn't look that way, we explain it away. We call it stress. We call it bad luck. We tell ourselves there must be another reason. How often do we confuse kindness with safety? How often do we assume that a gentle voice means good intentions? That caregiving is care earned? That someone who helps couldn't possibly harm? Kindness lowers our guard. It makes us comfortable. And comfort can blind us. And how easily can trust be turned into a weapon? Because trust opens doors. It grants access. It creates space where questions don't get asked. And once that trust is in place, it doesn't take force to cause harm. It only takes time. That's what makes cases like this so unsettling. They don't just tell us what happened. They ask us to look at how it was allowed to happen, without anyone noticing until it was far too late. Velma's victims weren't strangers. They weren't faces in the crowd or names in a report. They were people who already knew her. People who had led her into their lives without hesitation. They were family. A mother who trusted her daughter. A fiancé who believed in her. People who never imagined harm could come from someone so close. There were people who needed help, dependent on care and kindness to get through the day. They trusted the hands that fed them. They trusted the person meant to keep them safe. They were people who believed they were safe. Safe in their homes. Safe in familiar routines. Safe because danger didn't look like the person standing in front of them. And that may be the hardest part of all. Because when harm comes from within that circle of trust, it doesn't just take a life. It breaks the sense of safety we all rely on. I'm Detective Pennyworth. And this is one of those cases that reminds you, not every danger announces itself. It doesn't always come with raised voices or broken doors. Sometimes it arrives quietly, carrying a smile and a familiar face. Not every threat looks frightening. Some look dependable. Some look helpful. Some look like the kind of person you'd trust without a second thought. Sometimes, the most harmful people are the ones we welcome in. The ones we invite to sit at our table. The ones we ask to care for those we love. The ones we never feel the need to watch too closely, and never think to question. Because trust, once given, has a way of lowering our guard. And when that trust is misplaced, the damage doesn't always come fast or loud. Sometimes, it comes slowly. If you want to stay with these stories and the truths behind them, you can subscribe to the channel. We'll keep telling the cases that don't always come with easy answers, but still deserve to be heard.